One day I'm gonna be everything I wanna be. I don't let it get the most of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be everything I'm gonna be. My future right in front of me. One day I'm gonna be free. I wanna be free. Then let me be free. From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges. A host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart, steel, and a spirit unbroken. He rides onto wheels, ready to claim his throne. Amidst the chaos and the thunderous roar, insane wheels rise as a force to be reckoned with. Fueled by the power that only metal can bestow. He takes his stand, refusing to submit. Insane wheels hears back to a cry. Metal and mayhem will never die. Rituals report he pays his way. More legend in the making, day by day.
Well, we magically made it to a freaking hump day. Much love, honor, respect to everybody. Let's get it. All right. Good morning to all of you legends. We got a big day today. We got a lot of things to discuss as well as inform. We have a lot of things that we're going to be breaking as well. The White House press secretary is about to, the White House press is about to go ahead and go live here. Very short. It's supposed to be within the next, believe it or not, it's 2 minutes ago they were supposed to start. But anyways, we got a lot of shit that we're going to be talking about, such as Venezuela. We have Congress that already is having an oversight hearing on Venezuela. Then we have Trump on Greenland, as well as the White House briefing. And more. And more is Russia-Ukraine war, U.S. Special Envoy in Paris, which is Steve Witkoff, by the way. We're going to be talking about that here in a minute. We also have followed a little bit of the what's going on, the story with Nick Reiner. Now, remember, he killed his father and his mother, likely to plead not guilty in parents' murders, so that there's a little update on his arraignment hearing, I guess. And then we have some breaking news yesterday, about 15 hours ago. New Trump comments on military operations in Greenland. So I had a couple of you guys already ask me about Greenland and his remarks on it so far. And I have not watched this exact video, so maybe he has said some stuff to the extent of maybe going to the, extent of force. I don't know. We're going to figure this out together. And then we had as well 15 hours ago, Trump, Venezuela turning over up to 50 million barrels of oil to the United States. Yes, it's anywhere from 30 to 50 million barrels that they're calculating. That's what they said anyways. U.S. warns Venezuela to cooperate or risk another attack. And yes, that was just last evening. U.S. attempting to seize Venezuela-linked oil tanker with Russian flag. Now, this is a big deal. We're going to be talking about this here in a minute. And we did not just attempt, we actually did seize it. So we're going to be talking about that here in a minute. And then we actually have an update on that very ship. U.S. intercepts that oil tanker. And then we have Senator Mark Kelly reacts to Hegseth censor. I don't know what they mean by censor. Don't really know. And then we're going to be talking about the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, briefs the members of the media today here on January 7th. All right, so we're, I can't thank each and every single one of you guys enough, first of all and foremost. Real quick, we got Sterling Whale dropping a gifted membership. I very much appreciate that, kind sir. That goes a long way. We got Papa Penguin as well coming in and dropping 5 gifted memberships. Let's go, man. I very much appreciate that, kind sir. Both of you guys, I'm very appreciative. All right, so real quick, let's go ahead and do our call to actions, and we'll get right into this. Please make sure you guys hit that like button as well as hit that subscribe button because it is absolutely free to do so. Double tap that screen if you're on the vertical side. But please consider becoming a member starting only at $3.99 a month. We're making sure we're not breaking the bank with anybody, but check it out. This is what allows us to be on these airwaves as well as have these lights on. So I very much appreciate you guys becoming members and staying members. Little side note here, follow my Instagram at BallValveTV where I post everything behind the scenes of not only my life, but as well as the show, Millennial Food Time, breaking news, and check it out, even the campaign, man. We've been posting a lot of the campaign trail. We actually just got qualified on Monday. J.R. Bowling got qualified for Alabama State Senate for District 4, man, so it's awesome. I was there for it. It was a great time. Little side note here, let's go ahead and just get this part over with, the money part, right? So all super chats, super stickers, gifted memberships, membership signups are of course all going to be presented live and presented and shouted out onto the channel, of course. But if you guys would like to skip that YouTube 30% brutal cut, well, check it out. We have these platforms right here that you guys can donate to because YouTube loves to take 30% of our fucking money here, man. So all right, so let's go ahead and get right into this, man. We've got all you legends in the building. We got KP as well as Sterling Wheel. We got SNS in the building. Always appreciate you guys. We got Steve Easy. Shout out to my man. We got Jimmy Mack as well as Tommy. Always appreciate you guys, man. We got Gary as well. Good morning. We got Sick Bastard. Yes, sir. And we got the Motobomb and Coffee Crew raid. Let's go, bro. I'm very appreciative of you, Motobomb, Sick Bastard, Old Mac, Carney's Ride, all you legends, man. I'm very appreciative. Sterling Wheel, yes, sir. Get that oil. Shit, that is true. We got Naomi in the building. Good morning to you as well. We got Matthews in the building. Shout out to Toronto, Canada. Appreciate you, man. We got Shadow in the building as well. Sterling Wheel gifting out on... Wait, is that the one he did? All right. Okay, I just want to make sure that I'm catching up. I'm way behind. You know, that's the way it fucking goes. And yes, it is a hump day. It's a magic hump day. Double tap the screen, Naomi says. Yes, ma'am, absolutely. We got Chan with Stacks in the building. Good morning, kind sir. Great to see you in the chat. Always appreciate you and having you in here. We got Carney's Ride as well as Papa Penguin. Good morning to you, fellas. We got Dwayne as well. Good morning, good morning. We're running our way down, just trying to catch our way back up. We got Big Dan in the building as well as Steve Posey. Quick Shoe. Let's see, I'm trying to go as fast as humanly possible. We got America Uncensored as well as Prez. Good morning, guys. Thank you guys for being here. We got Dylan Patterson. Yes, sir. Great to see you, bro. Thank you for hanging out with us this morning. Trying to scroll as fast as possible. You guys are fucking legends. We got Rob's neighbor, Carrie, in the building. Shout out to my man, as well as Miss Lotus. We got Poppy saying impeach. Well, shit. It's the way of the road. We're running our way down. And Roger, my man. Good morning. I see you, bro. We got Tiffany as well. Good morning. And Virginia Chaos. All right, guys, that is enough of that. Thank you all for being here. We're about to get into this. We're going to go ahead and start off with Russia-Ukraine, the update on Russia-Ukraine as much as we have right this second. And this is Steve Witkoff with EU leaders, Zelensky in Paris. And anyways, let's go ahead and figure out what is being said here. We're not going to listen to this whole fucking thing, because unfortunately we have a lot to discuss on the rest of the world, and in particular today with Venezuela. So let's go ahead and get this update, though.
It's our privilege to work on this endeavor. I want to be clear that Jared and I have been working with Ambassador Kushner for close to 10 hours today, and we'll be meeting with the Ukrainian delegation this evening, continuing that work, because President Trump's mandate is that he wants a peace in Ukraine. And we are determined on his behalf.
Oh, yeah. No, Trump already made a comment on that. I think Rubio originally brought up that there was a $50 million bounty for Maduro. And then Trump is like, oh, well, you know, we don't need to give that to anybody. We get to keep that for ourselves now. I was like, shit.
To do everything possible to attain that peace. A lot of progress began first in Geneva. We made tremendous progress there. We moved on to Berlin. Lots of progress happened there, and as President Zelensky identified, we had a very compelling meeting in Mar-a-Lago, and we look forward...
What's up, Robert of Chaos? Good morning.
...to more progress as a result of everything that's occurred
Mountain
today.
Woman?
We think we're largely finished with security protocols, which are important so that the people of Ukraine know that when this ends, it ends forever. But we also think, critically, that...
How could you actually say that? I mean, we hope it ends forever, but you can't just say that with conviction.
We are very, very close to finishing up as robust a prosperity agreement as any country has ever seen coming out of conflicts like this. It will aspirationally mean large, large possibilities for the Ukrainian people, for people coming home from war who will find wonderful jobs out there. We're working with BlackRock, Larry Fink in this endeavor, and we think it's going to be very, very important for the people of Ukraine. And we believe that a robust economy correlates and works directly with these security protocols. It makes Ukraine a strong, independent nation, and we think that's really important in terms of the long-term future. Jared and I are prepared to do anything necessary to work with our European colleagues. Prime Minister Starmer, you've been incredible, as has Chancellor Merz, and all of the European nations who we met today, who we spoke with. It's all been an important meeting today, and we think we've made a lot of progress. We heard President Zelensky and some of the other people here talking about land options. That will be the most critical issue, and that's subject. And we're going to be continuing on with those discussions, and hopefully we'll be able to meet or come up with certain compromises with regard to that. But I do want to say this. We are here to mediate and help in the peace process, and we're prepared to do anything necessary to get to that place. President Trump strongly, fervently believes that this killing has to stop, that the carnage has to stop. And we're
Brother KP knows what type of time I'm already on.
determined, all of us up here, to be a part of that.
Nothing to add. That was perfectly said.
Okay. Thank you.
Nothing to add. That was perfectly said. Oh my goodness. All right. So let's see if there's anything else within this that we go ahead and see Steve Witkoff in. Zelensky here. Let's go ahead and hear a little bit if he's speaking in English.
Thank you for the question.
Oh, so it's translated, and he's just taking questions. Okay, well, whatever. We're going to move on because we got so much shit to get through anyways. All right, real quick. We've got Nick Reiner. Remember, he unfortunately killed his father and his mother. And Nick Reiner has his arraignment hearing very soon and is, quote, likely to plead not guilty in parents' murder. Now, of course, I think everyone sees that coming. But my whole thing is when we have story updates on any of the things that we've been covering, I do my absolute damnedest to follow the story and give you guys the news as it comes. So we're not going to probably even listen to this whole fucking thing, but at least we're going to get some bits and pieces from it.
Just before the break, we were talking to TMZ about the very latest in the Reiner case. Nick Reiner going to be arraigned tomorrow in the murder charges against him, where he's accused of killing his family. This is, of course, rocked Hollywood, and we are going to see the arraignment tomorrow and be bringing you full coverage here on Live Now from Fox. But we want to talk about the really the preview to this arraignment, get some other details and insights. So let's bring in our next guest to help break all of that down. Friend here of the program, Trey Lavelle, attorney and legal analyst. Great to have you on, Trey. Thanks again for joining us. So yes, tomorrow the big arraignment.
Okay, so first of all, boom, tomorrow is the big arraignment. Okay, when this was recorded, by the way, this was yesterday. So that means today, Nick Reiner has his arraignment hearing today. Very interesting.
Reiner is now off suicide watch and will be part of this arraignment.
Yes, and it's going to be very interesting. People are anticipating, and it will probably be the case, that he'll plead not guilty by insanity, just to preserve that defense and potentially use it. So we know a little bit more since the arrest. But yes, tomorrow is going to be a very anticipated day and a very interesting day.
Now, tell us and our viewers here.
Yeah, it totally. We totally all saw that shit coming, and he probably is actually insane.
Really, the different layers when it comes to then trying a case.
United States needs to bring back fucking insane asylums. That's what we need to actually bring back. Let's advocate for 2026. Let's bring back insane asylums.
When you are doing a not guilty with an insanity plea there.
Sure. So not guilty by reason of insanity is a complete defense to the crime. And basically, You have to demonstrate that the defendant at the time that he committed or she committed the crime, that they did not understand the act that they were doing or did not understand that it was right or wrong. It's largely proven.
I guarantee you that motherfucker did know it was wrong to do, and he shouldn't do it, though. But we all know that they use, insanity as a cop-out.
Proven by experts, medical experts, psychiatrists who evaluate the defendant and provide testimony in court that at the time of the offense, the defendant, either met one of those two requirements.
Yes, make sure you guys double tap that screen, by the way. We have over 200 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button as well. Always appreciate you guys.
They're tough to prove because the standard is high. But if you are successful in proving it, it can be a complete defense.
Yeah, so obviously the medical experts will definitely be weighing in here. What about the actual 911 call? How big will that be, not only for prosecution maybe, but for the defense as well, depending on what was said during that 911 call?
It's going to be interesting because, there's a number of facts that are really important. Did Nick Reiner allegedly commit these crimes right after that argument he had with his parents at the party at Conan O'Brien's house, where he may have done it under heat of passion, which could be voluntary.
Absolutely, Kathleen.
Manslaughter type charge. Or did he wait some time to the next day and cooled off and was premeditated and planned it? Those are very important facts. They completely, can determine which offense he could be guilty of. So we're going to get to know what that is. And that's going to also support what the defense is going to do in terms of how they're going to defend.
And also, so they gave an update here. It says Nick Reiner removed from suicide watch ahead of arraignment. So, all right. So he's not on suicide watch right now. Very interesting. And that arraignment hearing is happening today. So when I get the update on that, most likely I'll be reporting on that a little bit tomorrow. And I'll probably just be explaining that now this is me speculating, but I'm guessing that he's going to be, not guilty and I'm pleading insanity, kind of thing. So anyways, we're going to go ahead and move into Trump's comments on military operations in Greenland. Let's go ahead and bring this up and let's go ahead and see what Trump is speaking on Greenland about.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. We're getting some breaking news in. The White House saying Tuesday that President Trump is viewing acquiring Greenland as a national security priority and that the use of the U.S. military remains an option as his administration weighs how to pursue control of the Arctic territory. Fox's Edward Lawrence with this statement from Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt reading as such. President Trump has made it well known that acquiring Greenland is a national security priority of the United States, and it's vital to deter our adversaries in the Arctic region. She continues, the president and his team were discussing a range of options to pursue this important foreign policy goal. And of course, utilizing the U.S. military is always an option as the commander-in-chief.
What's up, Crystal Kitten? Good morning to you. Great to see you in the chat.
Disposal. So, of course, we've been talking about Greenland quite a bit here at Live Now. The president and his team, as the press secretary says, they are weighing a range of options. These comments mark the clearest statement to date from the White House, suggesting that military force could be considered. We did get a statement.
Military force could be considered.
Statement in from leaders of.
But who made that claim? He didn't say that. He didn't say who exactly said that. But we're about to see Trump's tweet or some bullshit.
Number of European leaders and Canada, they rallied behind Greenland earlier today. And just to be clear, this statement, I believe, came out before.
Right, and this is the joint statement from Greenland. Now, let me go ahead and just pause this here. This came out from the president of Macron of France. We have basically the chancellor or the president, prime minister, whatever, of Germany, prime minister of Italy, prime minister of Poland, prime minister of Spain, prime minister of the United Kingdom, and prime minister of Denmark and Greenland. Let me go ahead and see where it says here. Okay, Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland, and them only, to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland. Shit.
Or Caroline Leavitt's statement, it reads as such, Arctic security remains a key priority for Europe, and it is critical for international and transatlantic security. NATO has made clear that the Arctic region is a priority, and European allies are stepping up.
Real quick, we got Hardwire in the building. Shout out to my man. Good morning to you. We got Joseph up there in Canada, our favorite snow Mexican. And yes, we got to stop the cap on, can't forget the haters, you know what I mean?
Stop the cap.
That's right. Good to see you guys, man.
Many other allies have increased our presence, activities, and investments to keep the Arctic safe and to deter adversaries. The Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland, is a part of NATO. Security in the Arctic must therefore be achieved collectively, in conjunction with NATO allies, including the United States, by upholding the principles of the UN Charter, including sovereignty, territorial integrity, and the inviolability of borders. These are...
No, we don't have Greenland. Greenland is under the jurisdiction of Denmark. Denmark basically runs Greenland.
Universal principles, and we will not stop defending them. The United States is an essential partner in this endeavor and as a NATO ally and through the defense agreement between the Kingdom of Denmark and the United States of 1951. Greenland belongs to its people. It is for Denmark and Greenland and them only to decide on matters concerning Denmark and Greenland.
Right.
That statement coming from the leaders of
that is a big joint statement, by the way. And Trump is basically like, we don't give a shit. And yes, I do agree with this, by the way. Steve Easy says, fuck NATO. Yeah, I agree. I absolutely agree. Fuck NATO, fuck the UN. Defund, stop being involved in it. I mean, $1 trillion to NATO a year. I mean, come on. Dude, we could do so much good in the world with $1 trillion. That's insane funding. All right, we're going to move on, though. Trump, Venezuela, turning over up to 50 million barrels of oil to the U.S. Yes, this is now, we're moving into Venezuela here. And the first claim is the claim is 30 to 50 million barrels. So anyways, let's go ahead and bring this up. We'll go ahead and talk about it briefly here. And we have a lot to say, or a lot to go on with Venezuela. We'll be talking about it here in a minute.
You're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. We're hearing from President Trump some breaking news. Him saying on social media that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be selling 30 million to 50 million barrels of, quote, high-quality oil to the U.S. at its market price. The president saying on social media moments ago, I am pleased to announce that the interim authorities in Venezuela will be turning over between 30 and 50 million barrels of high-quality sanctioned oil to the United States of America. This oil will be sold at its market price, and that money will be controlled by me as President of the United States of America to ensure it is used to benefit the people of Venezuela and the United States. I have asked Energy Secretary Chris Wright to execute this plan immediately. It will be taken by storage ships and brought directly to unloading docks in the United States. Thank you for your attention to this matter. I myself have not seen any reaction from Venezuelan officials or any confirmation from the Venezuelan side that this will in fact be happening. But this is the first little bit of clarity that we're getting from the White House on what a significant piece of this sanctioned oil, what will happen with this sanctioned oil. As President Trump says, it's going to be between 30 and 50 million barrels of high quality sanctioned oil. A live look at the White House just past 7 p.m. in the nation's capital. We're also getting clarity on casualty figures after Saturday's raid in Caracas. The Pentagon is now confirming, according to the Associated Press, that 7 U.S. service members were injured. 2 of them are still recovering, while 5 have returned to duty. A U.S. official said the injuries were gunshot wounds and shrapnel injuries. We did hear from officials over the weekend that the U.S. service members did receive return fire from the ground in Venezuela as they were carrying out their mission. Some video from that night as explosions rang out in Caracas.
Man, that's a wild scene right there.
In addition to those 7 injuries on the U.S. side, we're also hearing from the Associated Press that at least 24 Venezuelans...
Wow, I didn't know that 7 U.S. service members were injured in Venezuela operation. Now, there were 0 casualties, and even the one piece of equipment that did get shot was flown back home. You know, it was flown to, you know, whether it was a carrier or whatever. Nonetheless, it got back without losing life and as well as the equipment. Now, I didn't know, but the Pentagon is putting out 7 U.S. service members were injured, however. I'd like to know the extent of these injuries and how they got injured, though.
The security officers were killed in the U.S. military operation. That brings the total death count up to at least 56 people. That 56 number also includes 32 Cuban military and police officers who were working in Venezuela. Cuba's government confirming that 32 of their military and police officers were working in Venezuela at the time. 2 days of mourning were announced on the Caribbean island. We'll continue to keep you posted as we learn more about the raid over the weekend in Caracas.
What's up, Tyrone? Good morning to you. All right, well, that was the end of that. Let's go ahead and move on into U.S. warns Venezuela to cooperate or risk another attack. So we're going to go ahead and continue on to Venezuela right now. Let's go ahead and bring this up.
All right, you're watching live now. I'm Austin Westfall. Live.
Now, a lot of you guys, real quick, may be asking, well, why is this really actually happening? People love to say that it's because of drugs or even oil, you know, and that is an extent, yes, but anything that undermines the hegemony of the U.S. dollar is going to be met with force. That's like what it boils down to. When we have on our side of the hemisphere of the world, we have right here in our side Venezuela, which is working in conjunction with China and Russia, and so that's an issue. And they're a part of BRICS essentially, and that's what they are honoring. So anytime you undermine the hegemony of the U.S. dollar, that's the true issue at hand. Now we're gonna do everything by taking all your shit. We're gonna take now, of course, the oil that's there. They have so much fucking oil in Venezuela, it's unfucking real. And so yes, it's gonna be like we're gonna take wins after win after win for this. That's essentially how the Trump administration is playing this out right now.
Look at the White House on this Tuesday evening. This week, the Venezuelan government has worked to show its people that the country is being run independently and is not being controlled by the United States. Lawmakers aligned with the ruling party, including Maduro's son, gathered in Caracas to swear in a new National Assembly for a term that will last until 2031. You're looking at video of Venezuela's interim leader, Delcy Rodriguez. All of this coming in the background as the Venezuelan military did confirm that 24 people in uniform died during the U.S.'s operation over the weekend. President Trump, meanwhile, telling NBC News that he could launch a second military operation into Venezuela if its acting president, Rodriguez, stops cooperating. Standing by is Connor Pfeiffer. He's the Senior Director of Government Relations at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies.
And that's very, very true, James. And America's doing its damnedest to go ahead and keep its, keep them from dumping it. But ironically, it goes against on an international scale. Everyone's like, well, yeah, this is why we don't use American dollars, because this is what fucking happens right here. And so, yeah. Anyways, that's why BRICS Alliance was formed in the first fucking place.
Connor, Politico says U.S. officials have told Delcy Rodriguez that they want to see at least 3 things from her. Number 1, cracking down on drug.
Real quick, Bill Castle over there in Washington, the state of Washington, by the way. Coffee and joints, that's right, sir. Great to see you in the chat.
Flows. Number 2, kicking out Iranian, Cuban, and other operatives of countries or networks that are hostile to Washington. And 3, stopping the sale of oil to U.S. adversaries. What's the likelihood that Venezuela does what the U.S. wants?
What's up, Pablo?
Austin, it's great to be with you. Those are 3 great demands from the Trump administration for Venezuela. They've long supported U.S. adversaries, created a safe haven for terrorist groups. Now, it's not going to be easy to get those demands taken in place by the new government, but if we can have some kind of transition through Delcy to a democratic government, then I think it's very possible to see those 3 demands realized.
Is it clear to us who the U.S. actually wants to be in power?
Well, there is a couple, theoretically. We haven't done a very good job. This is the very honest truth, statistically speaking. Anytime we've done any type of regime change that went well, it's actually on this side of the hemisphere. When it comes down to the East, Syria, Cuba, or not Cuba, Iraq, Afghanistan, all that shit. The Middle East doesn't work out very well for us in regime change. It does somewhat okay in the Western Hemisphere. Now, do I think that we should be getting involved? Fuck no. I actually don't think that we should be getting involved in any of this shit. But it is what it is.
Venezuela, for now, do they have their backing behind?
Like I'm saying, I'm not talking about what ought be. I'm talking about what is.
And Rodriguez?
I wouldn't say that necessarily it's the U.S. backing Rodriguez, as it's the U.S. saying we need someone from the old regime in place right now in order to facilitate an orderly, stable transition to a democratic election where candidates like Maria Corina Machado could contest the election on a fair basis and potentially be elected.
Machado is, from what I read most recently, in an undisclosed location. That was according to Fox News today. It's unclear to me if she's in the country right now. As things stand today, how important are opposition factions in shaping the transition process?
I think they're super important because I don't think that the success of the strike that the president ordered over the weekend would have been possible without years of effort by the opposition to cultivate dissent in the military, dissent in the security services, and provide crucial intelligence to the United States about the Maduro regime and Maduro himself. So I think in the transition process, the opposition will remain extremely important.
Rodriguez has named figures from the Maduro security apparatus to key posts. What does that tell you about the direction of governance in Venezuela?
Well,
What's up, Big Biz Quick? Great to see you in the chat, by the way. Good morning.
The officials who were in place under Maduro have remained in place under Rodriguez. Her brother is the head of the National Assembly, also former Vice President Hugo Chavez. You have Vladimir Padrino, the defense minister. You have Cabello, the head of the repression apparatus, interior minister. So they're still in place, and Rodriguez isn't necessarily going to have a firm hold on all of them, which is why U.S. pressure and leverage is going to remain important to make sure that we see the outcomes that the United States wants to see in the country.
I mean, if you could put a number on it, how much leverage does the U.S. have at this point? Do they have all of the leverage?
Damn near all of it.
I think they have most of it. I mean, oil revenue is the most important source of resources to keep the regime afloat. So as long as we strictly enforce the quarantine on sanctioned Venezuelan oil, then we have significant leverage over the regime. And then, of course, the president, as you mentioned in the lead up, has threatened additional military operations if Rodriguez or other members of the regime don't comply with U.S. asks. So I think that 1-2 combination is very potent for pushing the regime in the direction we want to see, but it's going to take a lot of hard work to get there.
We're looking at video of oil fields in Venezuela. What questions do we have about Venezuela's oil in the weeks and in the months ahead? There's still a lot of clarity lacking, correct?
There definitely is, because the regime...
Yo, we got Bree Rodriguez in the building saying those dang Rodriguez. That's right. Great to see you in the chat, by the way. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day morning. By the way, we've got over 400 people in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button, as well as double tap that screen on the vertical side. I very much appreciate it. Listen, you guys don't have to like all the craziness that's happening in the world, but you guys can like it for me and what we do here. So I very much appreciate that.
Has let their oil resources kind of deteriorate. Many of the oil fields haven't been pumped or maintained over years. They have oil leaks in different parts of the country. Their infrastructure is aging. It hasn't been upgraded in 20 years. And so it's going to take, estimates say, maybe as much as $100 billion in the next 5 to 10 years in order to get production back to levels even a few years ago. So that's going to take a lot of resources. Obviously, the United States has superb expertise in energy production, and U.S. companies will be well positioned to help Venezuela rebuild through its oil infrastructure, but it's a mess. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah, what are you reading as far as how much of a role the U.S. government will have and how much of a role perhaps U.S. oil companies might have in Venezuela's oil future?
I think they could have a very important role, in part because tapping those additional oil resources from Venezuela could be what finances rebuilding the country. The president's talked a lot about this, as well as Secretary Rubio and others. The key is going to be creating the conditions where U.S. oil companies feel that they can operate safely and with certainty that their assets won't be expropriated down the road like they were in the past under Chavez and Maduro. And so that's why a democratic transition is so important, because you need to provide that certainty to oil companies.
Wow, hold on. We got $20 coming in, inserting himself. Papa Penguin with the $20 saying, for my lost bet on Ukraine, I've tossed my crystal ball in the trash. Damn thing was broken. I have to send that to you back because we both evenly lost. You know what I mean? I actually predicted way earlier than you did, and we both missed the mark. So, but I very much appreciate the $20, man. I very much appreciate that, bro. Goes a long fucking way. Let's go. Shit.
To be able to operate in the country.
What are your biggest questions moving forward? There are so many different angles that we've been tracking this thing from since this past weekend. Connor, what are you tracking most closely in the days ahead?
I'd say a few things. First is the intra-regime dynamics. Is Rodriguez able to actually exercise power? What influence do Padrino and Cabello have over different aspects of the regime? Do we even see a threat down the road of a coup within the regime? And then on the U.S. side, what does it look like to enforce that oil quarantine? How much oil is being let out of Venezuela? And do we need to have additional military operations to address some of these problems? And then finally, I'd say it's the potential timeline down the road for elections. Secretary Rubio was very clear. You can't just wave a wand and have the opposition take power overnight. You have to have some kind of transition. But what does that transition look like? How long does it take? What kind of public agreements do you see from Rodriguez and her new government, though we don't recognize it, moving forward to addressing some of these U.S. demands that you mentioned?
All right. Connor Pfeiffer is the Senior Director of Government Relations at the Foundation for Defense of Democracies. Thanks.
What's up, Brother Bob, up there in Canada? Good morning to you, kind sir. Great to see you in the chat.
Coming on.
It's Austin.
Of course. All right. Let's get to a soundbite from the opposition. Maria Corina Machado was on Fox News. Let's play a little bit of what she said.
Oh, boy.
Let me be very clear. As soon as I learned that we had been awarded that...
Hold on. I'm going to slow it down because it's already hard enough to understand. I'm also going to put on captions here, so I'm not going to highlight comments while I do this.
Nobel Peace Prize, I dedicated to President Trump because I believed at that point that he deserved it. And a lot of people, most people said it was impossible to achieve what he has just done on Saturday, January 3rd. So if I believed he deserved it on October, imagine now. I think he has proven to the world what he means. I mean, January 3rd will go down in history as the day justice defeated a tyranny. It's a milestone, and it's not only huge for the Venezuelan people and our future, I think it's a huge step for humanity, for freedom and human dignity.
Maria Corina Machado earlier on, that was...
All right, so I'm choking on my smoke. Shit. All right, we're moving on. U.S. attempting to seize Venezuela-linked oil tanker with Russian flag only 2 hours ago. This is a big deal. This is actually going to be one of the main stories of the day, guaranteed. You're going to see a whole bunch of people talking about this later on. I can promise you that.
Right now, I do want to take you out to some breaking news that we are following here. Just coming into our newsroom moments ago, the U.S. attempting to seize a Venezuela-linked oil tanker.
Now, not just attempting. This is when it was being sought after, and then they did take it over. Now, now mind you, this is a Venezuela-linked oil tanker. And what Trump is saying in his administration is they violated sanctions. So the U.S. is attempting to not only seize this Venezuela-linked oil tanker, but who's it linked to? It's a fucking Russian fucking flagged ship. And they seized it.
After a more than 2-week-long pursuit across the Atlantic.
By the way, we've got 792 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys hit that like button and double tap that screen. Very much appreciate it.
That information coming from Reuters as they spoke with various U.S. officials this morning. The seizure could increase the tension between the U.S. and Russia. No surprise there. It came after the tanker, which was originally known as the Bella 1, slipped through a U.S. maritime quote-unquote blockade of sanctioned tankers and rebuffed U.S. Coast Guard.
What's up, Lone Wolf? Good morning.
Efforts to board it. The officials said the operation is being carried out by the Coast Guard and the U.S. military. They added that Russian military vessels were in the general vicinity when the operation took place, and that includes a Russian submarine. The tanker, now registered under a Russian flag, is the latest tanker targeted by the U.S. Coast Guard since the start of President Trump's campaign against Venezuela. The U.S. Coast Guard has also intercepted another Venezuela-linked tanker in Latin American waters. That's also according to Reuters here, just providing that information a short time ago.
Now, that's when it was breaking. Now, let's go and fast forward a little bit here. I don't care about what this guy really has to say about it because it's all speculative until I see the facts. So it looks like they're just talking. Let's see right here. U.S. forces attempting to board sanctioned Russian-flagged Marinera. I don't know how to say whatever. Oil tanker. Marinera. I don't know. Oil tanker in North Atlantic. Sources tell whatever that source is. So anyways, we have the update on it, though. So Venezuela latest. U.S. does intercept that oil tanker. Let's go ahead and bring it up. Here we go.
As always, a lot to discuss here, so I do want to bring in Will Freeman, Fellow for Latin American Studies at the Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you so much, Will, for taking the time to be here with us today.
My pleasure. Good morning, Josh.
Good morning. Well, as we talk about everything going on, there's obviously a lot of ground to cover, but I want to start kind of at the beginning as we talk about Venezuela as a whole. How do the Venezuelan people feel overall about the Maduro regime and really his party?
They're terrified of the Maduro regime, and rightly so. They loathe it. And look, this isn't hyperbole to put it in those terms. This is a regime which, for now almost 15 years, has tightened its grip over the country, used torture, enforced disappearances, killings to exert control over the population, and which has overseen the exodus of 8 million people. That was a quarter of Venezuela's original population before the refugee migrant outflows. At the same time, has cratered the economy, brought on as well the burden of U.S. sanctions through some of its actions. So, you're talking about really one of the most unpopular regimes.
Bob, that's pretty funny.
In Latin America. And I think that that's also explains the mood in Venezuela today. You probably saw images of all over the hemisphere, all over the world. Venezuelans abroad were celebrating Maduro's removal. Well, look at the country. It was actually eerily quiet.
You got to go ahead and break down what the COPA bill is, man. That's crazy. Definitely let us know.
People were afraid that if they went out and celebrated, they would be targeted by the Maduro regime officials who today remain in power. And two, because I think there's a reasonable skepticism within Venezuela that anything has really changed. We still have a Maduro loyalist right now in the presidency, Delcio Rodriguez.
Do you see a world where there is a free election that takes place maybe within the next 12 to 18 months?
Honestly, I think it hinges on one man, Secretary of State Marco Rubio. For me, he's the only administration official who seems deeply personally committed to that outcome in Venezuela. It's not that others haven't talked about it, but other administration heavyweights, they have other priorities. So for Stephen Miller, it's negotiating large-scale deportations. If he can do that with the current administration, the current government in Caracas, the leftovers of the Maduro regime, fine. For President Trump, it seems to be asserting geopolitical dominance, gaining access to oil. For him, it may be easier to...
No, it's not just oil. Oil, yes, is a big part. But the main part of the whole thing is when you undermine the hegemony of the US dollar. That's the main thing. And then it goes to taking their fucking resources. Then it goes, how do you make that happen? By regime change. You have a whole bunch of shit that goes on with force when it comes to this level of shit.
Work with the remainder of the Maduro regime than to risk to actually roll the dice on trying to get in place a new democratic government. So I really think it's only Marco Rubio who can drive this forward. It all depends on what kind of persuasion ability he has among other members of the administration, namely, especially Trump himself, to convince them that a democratic transition will actually help them achieve their interests, not hinder those interests.
And when we do kind of discuss the future here and what happens next, you touched on this kind of off the top, but is there a concern that moving forward, some loyalists of Maduro could actually seek maybe some kind of retribution?
Well, yes, but now we're kind of doing a whole bunch of speculative questions on this, and that's cool and all. And I'm glad that they set the tone of it being a speculative, asking what's the future going to be like. Well, that's speculation. But anyways, we're going to move on. Senator Mark Kelly reacts to Hegseth's censor. Now, I'm not sure what they're exactly talking about here. Let's go and bring it up, and then we're going to get into the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, briefs the media today, and I have the live stream of it. So,
welcome back here on Live Now from Fox, and you are taking a live look at this hour over the Capitol as we get right back into your headlines. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, also, of course, called the Secretary of War, announcing earlier this week that he censured Democratic Senator Mark Kelly of Arizona after Kelly took part in a video that called on troops to resist, quote, unlawful orders. Hegseth explained that the censure was a necessary process step to proceedings that could result in a demotion from Kelly's retired rank of captain and reduction in retirement pay. Kelly and 5 other Democrat lawmakers, all veterans of the Armed Services and Intelligence Committee, took part in a 90-second video calling on troops to uphold the Constitution and defy, quote, illegal orders. President Trump went on to accuse the lawmakers of sedition, calling...
No way, Steve Easy. So that's the thing they passed in New York City or whatever. It's an ordinance that says you can sell a property in New York City. First, you have to offer it to the city or a nonprofit before you can offer it publicly. That's insane.
It, quote, punishable by death. Senator Kelly joining us now live to discuss his reaction to all of this. And Senator, thank you so much for taking the time to be here with us this morning.
Oh, well, thank you for having me on.
Of course. And first off, I do want to start by getting...
What's up, Jeremy Ryan? Hopefully you're enjoying the morning.
Your overall reaction to those comments there from Pete Hegseth earlier on this week, and really what you've seen from President Trump in the past couple months.
Well, a couple months ago when we put out that video, Trump's...
Can we get a decent audio check on this motherfucking guy, please?
Initial reaction was that I should be hanged, executed, prosecuted. And then Pete Hegseth went with the...
What's up, Orland? Good morning. Yeah, this guy needs to bring his microphone down. No matter how much you bring his side down, it's still going to be fucking capped out.
Can you still hear me, Josh?
I can hear you.
Okay, well, sorry. I think we may have lost the video here for a second. But you know what? At that point, Pete Hegseth said he was going to prosecute me under the Uniform Code of Military Justice. He sent me a letter a couple days ago, a censure letter, because they didn't like what I said, and they want to silence me, and they want to silence other members of the military, active duty, retired service members, and it would send a chilling effect to people across the country that they cannot speak out and say anything about this government. The president wants to shut people up. I am not going to shut up. I'm not going to back down. This letter of censure is a joke. By the way, Josh, this is interesting. In this letter, it was not just about the video. They criticized me and they say I'm being censured because I criticized them for firing admirals and generals. They're also critical of me because I said I would always support the Constitution.
What message would you say that you were hoping to convey with that video? Because do you feel that it got across?
Well, it got a lot of attention, right? We were surprised with the amount of attention it actually received. It was the second video we did. The first one, Donald Trump ignored. Second one, he didn't like what we said. But we're trying to send a pretty basic message. And this is something that members of the military are taught. Usually initially when they enter the military, for me, it was when I was a midshipman at the U.S. Merchant Marine Academy, that we're taught that you do not follow illegal orders. That if the law and the orders are in conflict, you got to stick with the law. It's a pretty simple and basic message. I would have expected that this president, if he said anything, he would have said something like, well, of course, and everybody knows that. So it was just a friendly reminder, and we did it because Donald Trump, in 2016, let me go through a couple things here. In 2016, he said the military should be killing the family members of terrorists. That means women and children, and shooting protesters in the legs, U.S. citizens. So we were really concerned about what might come next. So we're trying to just send this simple message.
The motivation behind this, what do you make of it? Is it simply political?
Their motivation?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's to stifle and silence people. They're trying to silence me. They also put in this censure letter at the end that they're going to continue to monitor what I say. And if they don't like it, they're going to criminally prosecute me. I have First Amendment rights. I'm also a U.S. senator. If they can silence a U.S. senator, what does it mean for other people that want to, speak out and give their opinion about this government? That is a right that every U.S. citizen has, the freedom of speech and the right to speak out against our leaders.
Can you explain to me what your service means to you? Because essentially, when you look at this censure and the next step...
well, that part I really don't give a fuck about. Seriously, I don't. We're going to go ahead and move on into the whole... press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, briefs the members of the media today, and I have the live stream right now, and it started right when we started at 11 Eastern, 10 Central. Let's go ahead and bring this up. And let's see if it will play from where I paused it at. It probably won't. I may have to refresh it.
By the European
Okay, let me see here. We're going to back up.
Those nations.
There it is. So they were actually like 15 minutes late.
Teamed members, good morning. Dr. Carson, come on up. Thank you so much. Good morning and Happy New Year, everybody. It's great to see you. It's great to be with a very packed room. I'm sorry we kept you all very busy over the holiday break. And I know there is a lot of news out there today, both here at home and around the world. I will be happy to take all of your questions on all of that news. But first, I'm really honored to be standing up here today with esteemed members of the President's Cabinet and his health team to make an important announcement with respect to the President's domestic promise to make America healthy again as we kick off the new year. In less than a year in office, the President and his incredible MAHA team have made real progress on this front. Here are just a few of the significant MAHA achievements thus far. More than a dozen food manufacturers and trade associations have made commitments to remove artificial and petroleum-based food dyes from their products. The Trump administration took strong action to bar hospitals from performing dangerous, irreversible, life-altering transgender procedures on children. The Trump administration announced funding awards to states through the Rural Health Transformation Program, an unprecedented $50 billion investment established under President Trump's One Big Beautiful Bill. The Trump administration has also worked with 18 states across the country to ban junk food purchases using SNAP benefits starting this year. And thank you for leading that effort, Secretary Rollins. Additionally, President Trump took historic action to secure most favored nation drug pricing and secured deals with major pharmaceutical companies to massively lower the cost of prescription drugs. And those effects are being implemented as we speak. Americans are going to continue to see the result of these incredible deals the president cut. And I know President Trump and this team behind me worked incredibly hard to lower those drug costs for Americans. On Monday, the CDC adopted common sense updates to America's childhood vaccination schedule based solely on the gold standard of science. This action empowers parents and physicians to make the best individualized decisions to protect our children, while also restoring much needed confidence in our public health system. And as a Maha mom myself, I'm very grateful for that. So thank you, Secretary Kennedy. To build on this progress, the Trump administration is now updating federal nutrition standards and guidelines to ensure that Americans have the most accurate, data-driven information supported by science and hard facts, not special interests or partisan ideology. President Trump has tasked two of the great individuals behind me, USDA Secretary Rollins and HHS Secretary Kennedy, with collaborating on this vitally important project. And today they are here to officially unveil the 2025 to 2030 dietary guidelines for America. These new guidelines are informed by the best and most reliable research on health and nutrition, particularly as it relates to the role of our diets and the prevalence of chronic disease in the country. They are also These guidelines are easy to read and understand, so every American, young and old, can access this information that literally has the power to change lives. But these are not just an updated guideline. These are the foundation to all federal food programs in our country. These new guidelines are going to update the food that is served to America's children in our public schools, to the plates that are served to our great...
I like that. I mean, listen, the dog food shit fucking food that you get in school it's terrible. It's extremely processed. I mean, these are the future of our generation to come, and all of this. I don't understand why we don't have any care in the world for the food. I mean, the food is simple, I would think, but that's, I don't know, it's just mind-blowing. And it's crazy that people pay for that shitty food.
And in uniform, in our military, our veterans, and the food that they are consuming at the VA. And these new guidelines are also going to impact nutritional programs for the needy in our country, such as WIC and Head Start. Unfortunately, for decades, federal dollars has promoted low-quality, highly processed foods that lead to scores of long-term health issues, which means Americans have gone broke because of these health issues. Faulty dietary guidelines of the past stacked the deck against healthy eating and food options for everyday American families, which has fueled the chronic disease epidemic and jacked up the healthcare costs of households across the country. This failed approach in our public health system ends today. When these guidelines are followed, Americans will be saving themselves thousands of dollars. If we want to cut healthcare costs in our country, we must become a healthier country. According to the CEA, poor diet is the root cause of obesity, which accounts for $400 billion in medical spending each year. A healthier America will lead to a more affordable America.
What's up, Tats, over there in the UK across the pond? Hopefully you're enjoying your afternoon on this hump day.
The new dietary guidelines from the Trump administration will ensure federal dollars go to real food to improve public health and therefore save the American people their hard-earned cash over the course of their lives. So with that, I am going to hand it over to Secretary Kennedy. The great people behind me will give remarks, and then we'll get into Q&A for the officials that are here on this specific topic. They will leave because they're all very busy people, and then I will open it up to Q&A with the rest of you on the rest of the news in the world. So thank you, and we'll start with Secretary Kennedy.
Thank you, Caroline.
Thank you.
Today marks a decisive change in federal nutrition policy, made possible by President Trump's leadership and the work of Maha moms and public health advocates who demanded reform. Today, in accordance with...
I very much appreciate that, Virginia Chaos. I try to consolidate everything into 1 hour, instead of having all this filler in between, just to grift being online. I consolidate it all into a single hour, what's happening, and then we do it Monday through Friday, man. So I very much appreciate it.
President Trump's directive, Brooke and I will release the dietary guidelines for Americans 2025 to 2030, the most significant reset of federal nutrition policy in history. These guidelines replace corporate-driven assumptions with common sense goals and gold standard scientific integrity. These new guidelines will revolutionize our nation's food culture and make America healthy again. For decades, Americans have grown sicker while healthcare costs have soared. The reason is clear. The hard truth is that our government has been lying to us to protect corporate profit-taking, telling us that these food-like substances were beneficial to public health. Federal policy promoted and subsidized highly processed foods and refined carbohydrates and turned a blind eye to the disastrous consequences. Today, the lies stop. The new guidelines recognize that whole, nutrient-dense food is the most effective path to better health and lower healthcare costs. Protein and healthy fats are essential and were wrongly discouraged in prior dietary guidelines. We are ending the war on saturated fats. Diets rich in vegetables and fruits reduce disease risk more effectively than many drugs. Whole grains outperform refined carbohydrates. Added sugars, especially sugar-sweetened beverages, drive metabolic disease, and today our government declares war on added sugar. Highly processed foods loaded with additives, added sugar, and excess salt damage health and should be avoided. As Secretary of Health and Human Services, my message is clear: eat real food. Nothing matters more for healthcare outcomes, economic productivity, military readiness, and fiscal stability. The dietary guidelines shape dozens of federal feeding programs, including Head Start. These standards affect 45 million school lunches every day, meals for 1.3 million active duty service members, and food served to 9 million veterans in VA hospitals. Today begins the work of aligning those programs with affordable, whole, nutrient-dense food. Implementation requires coordination across the government. I'm working with many of my fellow cabinet secretaries to deliver results. I want to thank Bobby Mukamala, thank you very much, who is the president of the American Medical Association, for committing to mobilize the medical community on nutrition. And I thank also the American Academy of Pediatrics for pardoning.
Okay, that's enough thanking. Can we get like to the questions and shit?
Protein and healthy fats, vegetables, fruits, and whole grains. And you can see the food pyramid here. It's upside down, a lot of you will say. But it was actually upside down before, and we just righted it. For the first time, the dietary guidelines directly address ultra-processed foods and set firm sugar limits in federal procurement, driving a significant reduction in added sugar in school meals. I want to thank President Trump for his leadership and the partners committed to ensuring that federal food dollars support real food and better health. Thank you.
All right. Looks like we're probably going to be going into questions.
And a friend, Brooke Rollins, who was an extraordinary collaborator on this.
Thank you.
Be good out there, Naomi. Always appreciate you. I'm not really interested in her reiterating all of that, so we're going to go ahead and move on here into where we can start getting a little bit of questions here.
We will take a few and then we'll get into the topic. We'll start with our new media seat. If you have a question on this topic today, Jamie Franklin, she comes from the Conservator. Why don't you kick us off?
Yeah, first of all, Caroline, congratulations on your pregnancy. We're so excited for you. Matt had moms across the country, including myself, are just so excited by what this administration is doing to make our kids healthy again. But, you know, we do have concerns when it comes to these blue states pushing back on a lot of progress that we're making as an administration. And particularly, we're really excited that you guys revised and streamlined this vaccine schedule. However, what we have seen is that these blue states, whether it be, you know, no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, or pushing back on immigration, they continue to stop your guys' progress. So what has been the response from these blue states? Because as Maha moms enrolling our kids in school, this is a big issue, and we celebrate what you guys are doing, but we want to have it, you know, even in the blue states as well.
Real quick, what's up, Charles? We got my man in the building. Oh, down there from down under in Australia. Great to see you.
I mean, my hope is that we only released these earlier, 2 days earlier. I'm sorry.
It's quacking at him. His phone is quacking at him, bruh. Shit.
That's an interesting. Duck is a good thing to eat, everybody.
They only released the new vaccine schedule 2 days ago. The vaccine schedule, there's nothing compulsory in it. Everybody, I've always promised, I'm not going to take people's vaccines away from them. People who want to get vaccines, everybody who wants them can get all of the vaccines that were on the old schedule. They will all be paid for by the Vaccines for Children program or for the insurance the same as before. We release guidelines that we think are optimal to public health. They're the same core vaccines that are required by the European community. And those nations...
Yeah, I forget the exact number. I think I actually screenshotted it, by the way. But holy shit, real quick, before we do, I'm glad that I just looked down at my phone. We got Alfred Patterson, sending over a Cash App, man. He says, for me and my sons, love the show. We listen every morning. Man, that's a humongous W. I very much appreciate Alfred. And he also sends another one and says, my son Dylan and I love the show. Keep it up. So he sent a total of $7, man. I very much appreciate that. Thank you, sir. I'm sincerely glad that you and your son get to hang out together and watch the show together, man. That's awesome. That's great news, man. Very happy about that.
Will have much better health outcomes than we do. And they're based on their best science and also on their conviction that when you put too many vaccines on the program, it actually reduces compliance.
Okay, so I have the White House. So the European countries have 11 injections from when you're born that are mandatory that you have to have, essentially, government mandated. The United States has 72. And so they're trying to bring it down to those 11. And it sounds like they did do it. I mean, we reported on the CDC, the recommendations, all of that yesterday. And so it's going from 72 injections down to 11.
This is uptake. And so we want to maximize the uptake of vaccines by making sure that Americans know we are making recommendations that are science-based, that are common sense, that are grounded in science. And right now, that's the best science that we have. And again, there's 3 categories of vaccine. One is the core schedule, which resembles the European countries. The second is for people who have vulnerabilities for high risk, and that doesn't change at all. And then the third is shared decision making, which any vaccine that was on the old schedule, you can continue to get. So people will make their own choices, and that's what democracy is about.
I asked the boss, Caroline, for permission to add a little bit to this because I think it's really important. And by the way, Jamie, what a superstar you are. It's so fun to see you in this seat, Jamie Franklin. The blue state question is a really important one. And for those of us that are running agencies with these programs, I mean, I've talked to a lot of you already about how we have 22 blue states that won't give us their SNAP data so that we can figure out and ensure that those who really need these programs are actually getting these programs. Clearly, you all have been writing about Minnesota. California is next. We're looking at New York, some other states. The amount of fraud in all of these programs is absolutely stunning. And
well, happy belated birthday to you, Pablo. That's awesome.
Challenge is, I mean, from Medicaid, et cetera. I know, Dr. Oz, you've talked a lot about that. This is a significant problem. And I think who's really harmed in all of this conversation and when these blue states aren't partnering with us to try to do this right is we say blue states and red states. But in those states, there are all kinds of our citizenry and that aren't all Democrat or aren't all Republican. We had a poll that just came out that had about 85% of all Americans believe that states should turn their data over on SNAP so that we can figure out where the fraud is and ensure these programs are going where they need to go. So my request of these blue states and these blue state governors is partner with us. Let us figure out how to do this better. Let us make sure that whether it's the vaccine schedule or the SNAP program or the Medicaid program or the child care program, that we are doing everything we can to protect every tax dollar, but to also ensure those who need it the most vulnerable in our society, are getting the programs they need versus those who A, are not even supposed to be here, or B, are cheating the system.
All right.
Thanks, Caroline. One of the changes that was made had to do with alcohol. Secretary Kennedy or Dr. Oz, could you explain the science behind the new language on not saying 2 drinks for men and 1 drink for a woman every day would be healthy, and whether or not the industry
what drink
had an impact on the language of moderation versus just saying alcohol is not healthy and you
Oh,
shouldn't
drink as in alcohol.
So alcohol is a social lubricant that brings people together. In the best case scenario, I don't think you should drink alcohol, but it does allow people an excuse to bond and socialize, and there's probably nothing healthier than having a good time with friends in a safe way. If you look at the blue zones, for example, around the world.
Yeah, as long as you don't get fucking plastered and go out driving or some
the
bullshit.
longest. Alcohol is sometimes part of their diet. Again, small amounts, taken very judiciously, and usually in a celebratory fashion. So there is alcohol on these dietary guidelines, but the implication is don't have it for breakfast. This should be something done in a small amount with hopefully some kind of an event that might have alcohol added. But the general move away from 2 glasses of men, 1 glass of women, there was never really good data to support that quantity of alcohol consumption. That data was probably primarily...
I know this sounds lame, and I used to drink once in a while in the morning with you guys. I'd have a beer on a special occasion. But you know what I kind of realized? It's like, it makes me tired throughout like the midday. So for me, I don't even start, like if I'm going to drink, I don't start until about 4:30 in the afternoon. Just the way it's become.
Confused with broader data about social connectedness.
Get too tired.
Take a couple more. John?
Thanks a lot, Caroline. Secretary Rollins, I'm curious about with these guidelines. They're not mandates, they're guidelines. What are the practical effects?
So real quick, so the correction, so it's gone from 72 shots down to 23 shots under the new schedule. And yes, because the Europeans are mandated at 11, and so it sounds like we're going to be mandated at 23. Very interesting. Thank you for that, Papa Penguin.
Guidelines on public schools all across the country.
Well, today begins thank you, John. It's good to see you. Today begins the first day now in a
Gunpowder.
recalibration
That's funny.
of the rules, whether it's school lunches, whether it's the SNAP program, whether it's as veterans were mentioned, our prison system, that now we begin the process of implementing and redrafting the rules to reflect what this new dietary guidelines for Americans actually is doing to our food system. So there is a lot of work to do. Nothing changes overnight, but as I think we've proven, this administration moves very, very quickly on all fronts, 7 days a week, 365 days a year, and so you'll begin to see some real
Oh yeah, Bill Castle. It's a humongous W for us.
changes coming very soon. As everyone is aware, for many of our most vulnerable in the margins in our communities, the school lunch is often the best place for our children to get the healthiest meal. Hopefully with stocking standards and reworking SNAP and the SNAP waivers we've done, that begins to change too. But
What's up, brother TVT? Great to see you in the chat up there in Canada. Shout out to my man.
right now, that is going to be the single most important, from my perspective, move forward, is the school lunches and making sure that we're getting the right amount, the best amount, and most nutrient-dense foods into the schools. Thank you.
Rollins cost when you had your remarks a little bit earlier. Is eating healthier more cost effective? Is it cheaper than just having a diet of processed foods?
I had a whole chart to show you, but left it in the back, unfortunately.
What's up, Dirty? Good morning to you as well. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day morning so far.
Yes, indeed, that eating healthy for the most part, we've got 100 simulations, is actually less expensive. The challenge comes is the access to those healthy foods, especially in parts of America where they have food deserts.
What's up, old
they don't
biker?
have a H-E-B or a Kroger or a Central Market. These are all Texan grocery stores, but whatever similar across the country. But that is why these stocking standards in SNAP are so important. So if you have a economically challenged family, and the only place they're getting their food is...
What's up, Papa D? We got a whole bunch of you legends coming in just now. Appreciate you guys. Good morning. Great to see you guys.
7-Eleven. We have a longer term important policy priority, and that is getting grocery stores into these lower margin communities. But for now, requiring those retailers, those 250,000 retailers across America, to double their stocking of healthier foods. That will allow us to immediately get these better foods into all communities, but especially the most vulnerable. Thank you, John.
Let me just add something to that.
Oh, come on. Shit. Come on, man.
We are working on a program. Affordability is the priority for the president. And we know we have to make it easy and accessible for healthy foods for every American. And we believe we can do that. We think affordable food is within reach of every American family.
Here, I got you, Steve Easy.
Why are you gay?
We are working on a education and information program that will allow American families all over the country to come onto our website and find the healthiest foods at the lowest cost for themselves. I'd also just add this. The idea that a cheap meal made of processed food is cheap is an illusion, because you're paying for it on the back end. You're paying for it with diabetes, with obesity, with illness. And if you internalize that cost of the meal, it would be a tiny fraction of the long-term cost.
By the way, I'm going to start looking for a raid right now. So I'm not sure how much longer this is going to be. It looks like about 10 minutes. I'm going to move into Caroline Levitt here because these guys are just fucking talking to talk. All right, now we've got back Caroline Levitt here. Let's see what's happening here.
Thanks.
Let's see what happens here.
All righty. Great. Does anyone have any questions? Rachel, why don't you start?
Thank you, Caroline. The president has been adamant that he is now in charge of Venezuela, but Delcy Rodriguez said the government of Venezuela runs her country, no one else, saying, quote, there's no external agent governing Venezuela. So which one is it?
Let me just be very clear. This is the first time that I've addressed Venezuela from the podium since being back and since the historic and incredibly successful military operation, law enforcement operation conducted by our United States military that you all saw and the world witnessed last week. The skill, the might of the United States military and our country under the leadership of this president is on full display to the rest of the world. And let's just set the record straight. There isn't another military in the world who could have pulled off this operation. There is not another president.
That is, listen, one thing that whether you're for or against this whole thing, objectively speaking, it was probably the best operation or whatever that has ever fucking happened in the United States history. I mean, it was by far one of the best, well-organized operations, in and out, 3 hours, insane. No people died. Now, they are reporting, the Pentagon is reporting 7 people were injured from the operation, but meaning from our side, but they didn't die. They're still alive, as well as one of the planes did get shot, but it didn't go down, and they were able to get it back to the aircraft or wherever they were with the carrier or whatever it was that they got to, and it was, nothing went bad for us, essentially.
In the world or in our nation's history who had the courage to authorize
Publicly known, right, because there's operations like this, not to this extent, but yes, there are operations that happen that are not so talked about if it's not in the media. This is a hot topic right now with Venezuela, and of course, all eyes are on this right now. So,
and I think the world has taken notice that America is truly back. With respect to Venezuela, the Trump administration, led by Secretary Rubio, the vice president, and the president's entire national security team, is in close correspondence with the interim authorities in Venezuela. We obviously have maximum leverage over the interim authorities in Venezuela right now, and the president has made it very clear that this is a country within the United States, the Western Hemisphere, close by the United States, that is no longer going to be sending illegal drugs to the United States of America. It's no longer going to be sending and trafficking illegal people and criminal cartels to kill American citizens as they have in the past. And the president is fully deploying his peace through strength foreign policy agenda. So we're continuing to be in close coordination with the interim authorities, and their decisions are going to continue to be dictated by the United States of America.
Just one follow-up when you talk about that leverage there. Has the Venezuelan government fully committed to turning over its oil to the United States indefinitely, and what happens?
No, I mean, what happens is with force. I mean, if we tell you we're going to do this now and you don't do it, or you don't allow us to do it and you get in our way, well, then it's going to be met with force. I mean, it's very simple, lady.
They do not.
Well, as you saw, the president announced last night, this was a deal. This was a deal made by the president and his team with the Venezuelan interim authorities. This will benefit both the American people and the Venezuelan people. And Secretary Wright and the Department of Energy are working with the interim authorities and also with the private oil industry to execute on this historic energy deal. That's not only good for the United States, but it's also going to revive the prosperity, the safety, the security of both the United States and Venezuela as well. Ed.
Following up on the oil part of this, 30 to 50 million barrels of oil. How exactly is that going to work? You're getting it out of Venezuela into the United States?
Yes,
And then what?
that's exactly right. So as you know, Ed, as the president announced last night, this was the sanctioned oil that was basically just sitting in barrels, sitting on ships because of the effective quarantine of the United States of America. And the interim authorities have agreed to release that oil to the United States, so it will be arriving here at home very soon. The United States government has already begun marketing Venezuelan crude oil in the global marketplace for the benefit of the United States, engaged the world's leading commodity marketers, key banks to execute and provide financial support for these crude oil and crude product sales. All proceeds from the sale of Venezuelan crude oil and products will first settle in U.S.-controlled accounts at globally recognized banks to guarantee the legitimacy and integrity of the ultimate distribution of proceeds, and those funds will be dispersed for the benefit of the American people and the Venezuelan people at the discretion of the United States government.
It sounds like it requires a lot of private sector engagement and agreement
And
from
there's
the oil industry and the banking industry.
That's
Do you
right.
have that yet?
There's a lot of private sector engagement that's happening right now. As you know, Secretary Wright, our energy secretary who's heading up this big project, is in Florida today meeting with some of these oil executives. And as we confirmed earlier, they will also be at the White House later this week. So they are absolutely eager to invest. They're eager about these opportunities. And Secretary Wright is a very well knowledgeable guy when it comes to oil and energy, and he's the perfect man for the job.
Another corner of the world,
Sure.
real quick on
Go ahead.
Iran.
Go ahead.
So just to follow up on the oil, 30 to 50 million barrels is an initial tranche, if you will, and then what happens after that? What
I won't get ahead of the plans that the president and his team are currently speaking with the interim authorities about, but rest assured, there is a long-term plan here. Secretary Rubio and the entire team are working diligently on it, and this is just
Why'd you leave out fentanyl, just out of curiosity, Tyrone?
sort of the first action that you all are seeing. Ed.
So
Okay,
in order
there
to
you
get,
go.
These oil companies to invest billions in Venezuela. How will the U.S. reassure that their workers will be safe in Venezuela? Could there be troops involved?
At this point in time, as you know, there are no troops on the ground in Venezuela. The president, of course, reserves the right to use the United States military if necessary. It's not something he wants to do. Diplomacy is always the first option. As you saw, he tried that with Nicolas Maduro, but unfortunately, he was an illegitimate dictator and an unserious person. And so President Trump authorized this law enforcement operation, and now Nicolas Maduro is sitting in a prison cell in New York. So certainly the president is going to do what's in the best interests of the American people, and that includes workers from our energy and oil industry as well.
With that meeting tomorrow, what is the message the president is going to give to the oil executives, and what does he want to hear?
Well, the meeting is on Friday, and it's just a meeting to discuss, obviously, the immense opportunity that is before these oil companies right now. Stephen.
Caroline, and congratulations again.
Thank you.
The New Yorker had a story yesterday on the vice president, and it questioned his, quote, notable absence on Venezuela. And the sub-headline asked, was the vice president's exclusion from the operation in Venezuela an expression of his anti-interventionist ideology or political calculation? Would you be able to discuss the vice president's role in Venezuela policy?
I did see
Real quick, what's up, Brother Lappy? Great to see you in the chat,
that
bro.
report in the New Yorker, and quite frankly,
Cheers.
I laughed out loud because it's very clear it's a fake report that's trying to sow distrust and division amongst the president and his team. Let me just be very clear. The vice president has been involved in all policy. He is the right-hand man of the president on all policy matters, including Venezuela policy. He was, of course, read in and deeply involved in this operation from the very beginning. And he was present on the night of the operation via secure communication at a different location as to not damage the operational secrecy of this mission. That was so incredibly important to ensure that this mission could be carried out successfully without endangering our troops. Sure.
The U.S. seized a tanker recently. Russia specifically asked the United
This is going to be a good question right here.
States not to seize that tanker. Does this action risk a larger conflict with Russia?
I got you, Dirty. Let me see where it is. Is it this one? Yep, there it is.
I believe you're referring to the Bella 1 tanker that was seized this morning. The Department of Justice and the Department of Homeland Security, in coordination with the Department of War, did announce that seizure this morning for violations of U.S. sanctions. I've spoken about the enforcement of our sanctions policy at the podium prior to the new year, and this administration is going to fully enforce the sanction policy of the United States. The vessel this morning was seized in the North Atlantic pursuant to a warrant issued by a U.S. federal court after being tracked. And this was a Venezuelan shadow fleet vessel that has transported sanctioned oil in the United States.
Right, and so violated sanctioned oil at this point. It violates sanctions, and so that's why they could legally go ahead and take this motherfucker too.
States of America under this president is not going to tolerate that. I would also just add the vessel had a judicial seizure order and the crew, so that means the crew is now subject to
And by the way, it was a Russian flagged ship.
prosecution for any applicable violation of federal law, and they will be brought to the United States for such prosecution if necessary. Kelly.
Caroline, Happy New Year to you.
Thank you. You
I'd
too.
like to talk to you about a couple of things real quickly. The first question about the Venezuelan people. As you know, there's some 8 million Venezuelans here, some of them celebrating in the streets. There are Venezuelans on the ground who are concerned about their safety. What does the Trump administration, what is it doing to actually help people in Venezuela understand that they will be secure throughout this transition?
I think the fact that this president actually followed through on the long-held promise of the United States of America, the bipartisan promise to take down the illegitimate Maduro regime, should give assurance to the Venezuelan people and also Venezuelan Americans who fled this communist regime for a better life here at home, that this is a president who is serious about taking down illegitimate regimes and who is also serious about securing the security of the United States of America, including the Venezuelan American people. And I would just add that this is something that not just Republicans and President Trump have talked about for a very long time, but it is also something that Democrats have advocated for. In 2020, Chuck Schumer said that that at the time, President Trump had not brought an end to the Maduro regime. The Maduro regime is more powerful today and more entrenched today than it was when the president began. Now you hear Chuck Schumer out there saying this is reckless. The American people and the Venezuelan people should be in fear. But this is something that Chuck Schumer has long advocated for. Senator Chris Van Hollen, same thing, had said that the United States is going to use its leverage and influence to push for negotiations to transition to the truly elected leader. This was under President Biden. We know Maduro and his cronies don't want to go quietly into the night. The U.S. needs to work to ratchet up the pressure. Now, Senator Holland says it's an illegal act of war to get rid of Nicolas Maduro. So the hypocrisy is really astounding here, and thank you for giving me an opportunity to point it out, Kayla. I mean, sorry. Go ahead. Yes.
So there are reports that the administration is demanding that Venezuela cut ties with China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba. Can you confirm?
I'm sorry?
Reports that the administration has essentially demanded that Venezuela cut ties with China, Russia, Iran, and Cuba. Can you confirm that?
Well, those alleged demands were made in a classified briefing by Secretary Rubio, and I know that there's a lot of leaks coming out of these classified briefings, so I'm not going to confirm or deny or get into what the Secretary has said in classified settings to members of Congress. But I think that the administration has made it quite clear to the interim authorities in Venezuela that this is the Western Hemisphere, and American dominance is going to continue under this president.
There have also been reports that the U.S. could potentially buy Greenland as one potential option on the table. What would such an offer look like? Is there anything monetarily you could provide, any details there?
Well, that's something that's currently being actively discussed by the president and his national security team. And I would point out that the acquisition of Greenland by the United States is not a new idea. This is something that presidents dating back to the 1800s have said is advantageous for America's national security. The president has been very open and clear with all of you and with the world that he views it in the best interest of the United States to deter Russian and Chinese aggression in the Arctic region.
What's up, Poncho? My man, great to see you in the chat, bro. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day morning so far.
So that's why his team is currently talking about what a potential purchase would look like. Jackie.
Caroline, just following up on Greenland, why not rule out taking it by military force?
Yeah, only because this is a live press secretary, press update, whatever.
I know that past presidents and past leaders have often ruled things out. They've often been very open about ruling things in and basically broadcasting their foreign policy strategy to the rest of the world, not just to our allies, but most egregiously to our adversaries. That's not something this president does. All options are always on the table for President Trump as he examines what's in the best interest of the United States. But I will just say that the president's first option always has been diplomacy. Again, look at Venezuela. He tried ardently to strike a good deal with Nicolas Maduro, and he told him,
What's up, Ashley? Good morning. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day morning.
I will use the United States military, and you will not like it if you don't take such a deal. And look at what happened. With respect to Iran, the president said the same thing, right? He tried to have serious interest in a deal with the Iranian regime with respect to their nuclear capabilities. They were not interested, and so Operation Midnight Hammer happened, which was another remarkable military success under the leadership of this commander-in-chief. So the president keeps his options open, but diplomacy is always the first.
Quickly, just one additional
Which, by the way, that was Iran.
follow-up on that. Does the president recognize Denmark's ownership as part of the kingdom? Because there have been some Republican senators questioning the claim that Denmark has to Greenland. Is the president in that camp with them, questioning the legality of
I have not heard him question it personally, but you're welcome to ask him yourself next time you have the chance.
Sanctions are being lifted for Venezuela. We got to lift some sanctions to let the oil come in. Can you talk about that just very briefly?
Yes, so the U.S. is selectively rolling back sanctions to enable the transport and the sale of Venezuelan crude and oil products to the global markets, yes. Annie.
Thank you. There are some reports from Venezuela that the country's leaders are cracking down on the population, specifically suppressing public expression of support for Maduro's ouster. Is that kind of behavior
What's up, Marilyn? Good morning. Hopefully you're enjoying your hump day morning as well. Good to see you in the chat.
consistent with what the president
Yes,
wants to see?
congratulations.
How the president wants to see the leaders to take on the population?
It would not be consistent, and I'll let the president's national security team speak further on that. I know they are well aware and tracking. Kelly.
Two questions. One, on the seized vessels, the Bella, the Sophia, can you tell us where they're headed, what happens to any existing cargo, and you reference personnel, but potentially facing prosecution? That's one thing I'd like to follow on. And then
On the Bella.
Yes, okay. And on Annie's question, if I could also ask, does the administration believe that the interim regime should release all political dissidents and prisoners and return detained Americans?
That's not a question that I've personally spoken about to the president with, so I will let him answer that question. I don't want to make new policy at this podium today with respect to Venezuela. With respect to the two ships that you mentioned, I spoke with you about the Bella 1. There was another vessel this morning, the Sophia, that in coordination with the Department of War, the Department of Homeland Security apprehended it. This is a stateless, sanctioned, dark fleet motor tanker and this occurred without incident. This vessel was operating in international waters and conducting illicit activities in the
Stateless. I mean, it was Russia flagged ship.
Caribbean Sea. The U.S. Coast Guard is escorting the Sophia to the United States for final disposition. To answer your question, Kelly, directly, this was through Operation Southern Spear. The Department of War is unwavering in its mission to crush illicit activity in the Western Hemisphere. And as the President has repeatedly stated, we're going to defend our homeland and restore security and strength across the Americas. Dasha. Dasha,
Caroline, thank you and Happy New Year.
Thanks, you too.
Two questions, one on Venezuela, one on Greenland. You've repeatedly at the podium called the current leadership in Venezuela interim leadership. There are Republicans and Democrats alike that say they want to see elections in Venezuela. The president has said it's too soon to do that right now, but is there a timeline for elections in Venezuela? Is he committed to seeing that this year, for example?
You just said the president has answered that question, so I will reiterate what the president has said a few times now to all of you, which is that it's too premature and too early to dictate a timetable for elections in Venezuela right now.
Caroline, you just talked to Jackie about diplomacy first, right? The Danes have repeatedly said they are willing to collaborate on all of the concerns that the president has, whether it's more troops, mineral rights, intelligence sharing. Why does the president feel he needs to own Greenland and not...
Man, there's a lot of good questions, actually.
And put out the threat of military action when this could be done through diplomacy?
Well, who said diplomacy isn't taking place behind the scenes, Dasha? I mean, the president is interested in diplomacy. His national security team is as well. And of course, he's always willing to pick up the phone for everybody and hear out their concerns. But the president is the president of the United States of America, and he's always going to be very clear about what he views as being in our nation's best interest.
Yeah, she just answered that with a huge W on top of it.
Thanks, Caroline. I have a question for you on Venezuela, and then I'd love to ask you about Minnesota and Tim Walz.
Sure.
On Venezuela, I'm wondering, does the administration hope to start sending more Venezuelan migrants back home, or have...
Wow, that's some very interesting fucking news right there. Papa Penguin says, by the way, who's one of my sources, the tanker got underway without registration and then painted a Russian flag and registered as a Russian vessel mid-cruise. Are you serious, bro? That's some fucking insane shit. Wow. Totally insane. All right. Thank you for that important context there.
Self-deport if the situation in the country improves?
As far as I'm concerned, the policy...
Yeah, so make sure you guys hit that like button as well, man. It's absolutely free to do so. You don't have to like all the craziness that's happening around the world, but you guys can like it for me and what we do here. You know what I mean? So make sure you guys double tap that screen on the vertical side as well.
Of the Trump administration and the Department of Homeland Security have not changed. All those illegally present in the country are subject to deportation. And I would just like to add, how we got here. The president was very clear on the campaign to the American public, and it's one of the many reasons they resoundingly reelected him back to this office, that he was not only going to crush foreign drug cartels, but that he was not going to stand by and watch as the illegitimate Venezuelan regime was sending illegal criminals and gang members and rapists and murderers to our country, which happened to the tune of thousands under the previous administration and president. And so there could be nothing more America first than this operation that took place last week. And I would just remind all of you in this room that there were innocent Americans like Jocelyn Nungare who lost their lives at the hands of dangerous Venezuelan criminals who were sent here by the Maduro regime. And that has been the president's North Star and guiding principle throughout his entire policy since January 20th.
Tim Walz in Minnesota.
Oh, Tim Walz. There we go.
Tim Walz potentially dropped out of the governor's race because he could be under criminal investigation.
I don't know if there's a criminal investigation. If there was, I wouldn't be able to comment on it from up here, to be honest with you. But I think Tim Walz probably dropped out of the race because he realizes he no longer has the support of the people.
Yo, we got brother Bill Hicks, my man. Good morning to you as well. Great to see you.
Of his own state, which is a remarkable downfall considering he was the number 2 on the Democrat Party's ticket just about a year ago. When it comes to Minnesota, the fraud that we have seen, the wide scale of fraud is really remarkable. It's egregious. I would encourage every...
Yes, sir. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you as well. Well, belated, but, well, Happy New Year, my man.
Every single journalist in this room to go to Minnesota and to cover it yourselves. As for the Trump administration, we have officials who have been on the ground almost every day. Secretary Noem was there yesterday. Secretary Bessent will be traveling there later this week to talk about the fraud and to do a roundtable on this very topic. And I would just like to leave you with an update. To date, the Department of Justice has charged 98 total defendants in several Medicaid fraud and related case programs. 64 were convicted, and 85 of the 98 charged were of Somali descent. The DOJ has also issued over 1,700 subpoenas, executed over 130 search warrants, and they have now added more attorneys to their office there to absorb the case flow. DHS is on the ground going door to door conducting large-scale criminal and HSI investigations. They have also sent approximately 2,000 agents to Minneapolis to assist with law enforcement and immigration enforcement. As I said, Secretary Noem was on the ground yesterday. The Department of Health and Human Services has also begun requiring a justification and photo evidence for all child care related payments nationwide, and they required Minnesota to conduct a full audit of all child care centers. They also froze $185 million in funding to Minnesota. And Dr. Oz, who was just here, also notified Governor Walz they're going to begin auditing Medicaid recipients and deferring payments on claims based on waste, fraud, and abuse. The Department of Labor is also conducting a targeted review of Minnesota's unemployment program. Department of Agriculture requiring Minnesota to conduct recertification for SNAP recipients, and HUD has launched investigations into the public housing. SBA has also suspended nearly 7,000 borrowers amid suspected fraudulent activity. So, with all of that, rest assured this is an all-hands-on-deck effort from the entire administration to get to the bottom of this and to ensure that the ripping off of taxpayers in the state of Minnesota, and it won't just be Minnesota, it'll be any state across this country where fraud has taken place, and we are protecting law-abiding, tax-paying American citizens. Phil.
Thank you, Caroline. Just to follow up on Greenland, there are treaties already on the books that give the United States access to the island. They can construct and maintain military bases there. We can house personnel on the island. The U.S. has control of landings, takeoffs, anchorages, etc.
Here, Papa, I got you, dude. I got you.
So I'm curious if you could just spell out for the American public, what specifically would the U.S. gain by taking control of Greenland that the U.S. doesn't already have access to right now?
More control over the Arctic region and ensuring that China and Russia and our adversaries cannot continue their aggression in this very important and strategic region. And there would be many other benefits as well that, again, the president and his national security team are currently talking about. Jeff, I'll give you another one.
A broad sort of stand-back question on foreign policy. Are you concerned about increasing tensions with Russia because of the tanker seizures? And how does the U.S. action in Venezuela impact the ongoing relationship with China and the president's relationship with President Xi?
I think the president has very open, honest, and good relationships with both President Putin of Russia and also President Xi of China. He has spoken with them numerous times, as you know, since coming to office about a year ago, and I believe that those personal relationships are going to continue. But as for the president and the United States, he's going to enforce our policy that's best for the United States of America. And with respect to these ships seizures, that means enforcing the embargo against all dark fleet vessels that are illegally transporting oil, and only legitimate commerce, to answer your question much earlier, Rachel, determined by the United States is going to be permitted. And that's the policy of this administration, and he's not afraid to implement it.
One more stand back. Just one more stand back. I just want to ask the last one. I remember asking the president at the very beginning of his term.
Okay, this is the last question I'm taking, by the way.
He was committed to Article 5 and NATO, and he said yes. Has his stance on NATO or his commitment to NATO changed?
Did you see his statement earlier today? He said we will always be there for NATO, even if they are not there for us. And I think.
Oh, that's terrible. What a fucking L. Bruh. Fuck NATO.
That answers your question directly.
No, I'm over it, dude. Over it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, stick around. We're gonna be going ahead and rating our buddy. Let's go ahead and make sure he's still live, actually. Yes, he is. All right. Chaotic Truth is live. Go over there and let him know we're coming through with the Mike Ball raid. I always appreciate you guys. I can't do this without you, so I'm very honored to be able to do this Monday through Friday, and then Saturday morning for members only, man. It's a great fucking time. All right, you legends. We'll see you guys tonight at 7 p.m., 7:15 p.m. Central Standard Time for the Diamond Effect. It's going to be a great time. We're going to be talking about Venezuela tonight, so make sure you guys stick around for that. If I don't catch you guys tonight, then I'll see you guys tomorrow morning for more of the World's Madness. Until then, God bless everyone. Be safe out there.
From the depths of darkness, a voice emerges, a host with a fire burning in his soul. With a heart, steel, and a spirit unbroken, he rides on to his ready to